In a world that moves too fast, this is your invitation to pause, to explore the space between thought and wonder, where science meets story and emotion meets insight. Here, curiosity is more than a question. It's a way of being. You found your corner of common contemplation. This is nerdy psychology. Stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy.
The minds of children, how childhood shapes the way we feel and heal. Hey there, my fellow nerdy minds. Welcome back to Food for Thought Fridays, where we serve up psychology one bite at a time. I'm Dr. Angel, and today we're exploring part 3 of The Body Keeps the Score, titled The Minds of Children. This section always hits home for me because it's not just about trauma, it's about how we become who we are, how the way we are seen, soothed, or scared as children shapes how we handle emotions, relationships, or even our sense of self as adults. Let me ask you this. When you were little and you fell off your bike, what happened? Did someone rush over and comfort you? Or did they say, "You're fine, toughen up, shake it off"? That single moment tells a story because it teaches your brain how to feel about feelings. In this episode, we're going to unpack how childhood attachment, neglect, and abuse shape our emotional wiring, and why healing the inner child isn't just poetic, it's neuroscience. If you love learning about how our childhoods build the blueprint for adulthood, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's nerd out on how the developing brain learns love, safety, and self-worth. These 4 chapters, getting on the same wavelength, trapped in relationship, what's love got to do with it, and developmental trauma, the hidden epidemic, explore how the child's brain grows through connection. When that connection is nurturing, the brain's wired for trust. And when it's inconsistent, the brain is wired for anxiety and hypervigilance. And when it's frightened or absent, the child learns that love and danger live in the same house. Being able to feel safe with other people is probably the single most important aspect of mental health. And that's from Dr. Bessel van Kolk. That sentence can be the entire thesis of childhood development. Our first relationships are our first nervous system regulators. Every coo, every smile, or ignored cry teaches our brain whether the world is safe or unpredictable. Let's go into a summary of the chapters. Chapter 7, Getting on the Same Wavelength. Dr. van Kolk describes how children learn to regulate their emotion through something called attunement. That's that back and forth dance of connecting between the child and the caregiver. When a parent mirrors a baby's emotions, smiling back, softening their voices, or holding them close, the child's brain learns. My feelings are safe. I can calm down. But when the caregivers are unavailable, distracted, or emotionally erratic, children internalize the message of confusion. They don't learn how to regulate, they learn how to scan for safety. Have you ever been around someone who can read everyone else's emotions, but they have no idea what they're feeling themselves? That is the adult version of what we call hyper attunement. It's a survival skill. It's born from having to read unpredictable parents. Our sense of self depends on the capacity to feel our emotions and to communicate them. And that's a quote from Dr. Kolk. Chapter 8, Trapped in Relationships, the Cost of Abuse and Neglect. This chapter is heartbreaking and brilliant. It explains that neglect can be as damaging or more damaging than overt abuse because both break the brain's ability to integrate safety and love. Children depend on caregivers for survival. When the person who's supposed to protect them becomes the source of pain, the child's brain faces an impossible paradox. I need you, but I'm terrified of you. To survive, they adapt by splitting feelings, suppressing their needs, or learning to stay invisible. And that result is often adults who either cling desperately to relationships or shut down and stay distant completely. Think about that friend who panics if someone doesn't text back, or the one who ghosts before they get too close. Those are different ways of managing the same wound, the fear of rejection and the need for safety. The challenge of recovery is to reestablish ownership of your body and your mind and of yourselves. Chapter 9, What's Love Got to Do with It? This chapter shows how attachment styles, secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized, don't just describe relationships. They describe nervous system strategies. Children with secure attachments have caregivers who are reliable and emotionally available. Their nervous systems learn to balance. Anxious attachment forms when love feels unpredictable, when sometimes you're cherished and sometimes you're ignored. Avoidant attachment develops when children learn their emotions get them rejected or they shut them down. And disorganized attachment, often from trauma or abuse, it wires the brain for chaos where love and fear, they coexist. Have you ever dated someone who says, I just don't do emotions, or someone who needs constant reassurance? You're not dealing with personality flaws. You're meeting their childhood coping mechanism. When children are chronically ignored or abused, their inner map of the world becomes one of loneliness, helplessness, and disconnection. Chapter 10, Developmental Trauma, the Hidden Epidemic. This chapter connects the dots, explaining that children who experience chronic stress, neglect, or inconsistent care grow into adults with nervous systems that are designed for survival, not peace. Trauma results in a fundamental reorganization of the way the mind and the brain manage perceptions. Dr. Kolk argues that developmental trauma is often misdiagnosed, showing up as ADHD, mood disorders, or behavioral issues, when the real issue is disrupted regulation and connection. That kid who gets labeled as, the problem child might actually be hypervigilant, scanning every sound for danger. Not misbehaving, but surviving. When a child grows up without consistent safety, their bodies become their alarm systems. Their developing brains wire around survival, not connection. And when they reach adulthood, they don't just have memories. They have body patterns, a racing heart when intimacy deepens, a shutdown response when there's conflict, a lifelong belief that love equals risk. But, and this is the beautiful part, the brain remains plastic. With safety, therapy, and healthy relationships, these old pathways, they can be rewritten. You can teach the nervous system what it never learned, that love doesn't have to hurt and safety doesn't have to mean silence. Childhood as a nervous system classroom. Children don't learn emotional regulation from lectures. They learn it from people. A parent who co-regulates teaches that feelings can rise and they can fall safely. A parent who ignores or mocks teaches that emotions are dangerous or useless. If a kid cries and hears, "Stop being dramatic," their brain links emotion with rejection. As adults, they may struggle to express feelings or feel guilt for just having a need. The mirror neuron system, why connection heals. Dr. Kolk explains that our brains contain mirror neurons, cells that fire when we experience something and when we see someone else experience it. That's why empathy, storytelling, and eye contact are healing. The brain literally syncs up with another's emotions. When you watch someone yawn, you yawn too. That's the mirror neurons at work. In therapy, it's the same. It helps you to rewire safety. Your brain says, "I'm being seen and I'm okay." Developmental trauma versus PTSD. PTSD comes from a single overwhelming event. Developmental trauma, it comes from chronic misattunement, an ongoing environment where the body never feels safe enough to relax. It's the difference between getting hit by a wave and living your whole life treading water. How childhood shapes adult coping. Well, adults who grow up with emotional chaos often live by two unspoken rules. Stay small to stay safe, or control everything so nothing surprises you. Both are nervous system strategies, not personality flaws. Understanding that turns shame into compassion. The greater the trauma, the greater need to numb the pain. Dr. Kolk. As a therapist, I've learned that so many adults don't realize they're still living the emotional rules of childhood. The perfectionist who's terrified to fail, or that's the kid that only got love when they excelled, or the caretaker who burns out helping everyone else. That's the kid who had to parent their parents. Children whose caregivers cannot attune to them learn to organize their lives around, trying to please others. The beauty of trauma work is that the same brain that learned fear, it can learn safety. Through therapy and mindfulness and compassionate connection, we literally rewire what love means. Let's pause here, because these insights aren't just about childhood. They're about all of us. The grown-up version of those kids still trying to feel safe. When did you learn about emotions growing up? Are they safe? Are they scary? Were they ignored? Or how did you tend to react when someone gets close? Do you cling? Do you freeze? Do you pull away? What would it feel like to be fully seen and safe in your body? Safety and reciprocity are the essential foundations of recovery. That means healing doesn't happen in isolation. We heal when we experience safety with someone else, and sometimes for the first time. If you take one thing from today, let it be this: your patterns are not broken. They're protective. They were brilliant when you were 5. They just don't fit who you are now. This week, practice noticing when your inner child shows up. Not to judge, but to say, "Hey, you don't have to handle this alone anymore." That's how healing starts. Next Friday, we're going to dive into part 4, the imprint of trauma, and how the body holds up what the mind can't. Until then, be curious, stay kind, and keep your mind nerdy. That's a wrap. See you next week.
found your corner of calm and contemplation. This is nerdy psychology. Stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy.